Hello, everyone. This is criminal profiler Pat Brown, and it's the end of the week. It's Friday evening, and the trial of Richard Allen and the Delphi case is wrapped up for this week. And this is my part 4 of my analysis of the evidence in the trial. If you would like to keep abreast of what I have to say, please do like and subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell for notifications. I don't do this every day. I do it only when I feel like there's something worthwhile saying, and today I do. So if you want to be sure you catch me when I have something to say, do hit the bell. Okay. I want to talk about 3 things today. One of them is his admission to being on the trail and the report and the unfortunate issue with that. The second one, I want to talk about what happened when they went to his house in 2022 and went through his house and what they found and what he said. And 3, the tool mark evidence, which is the cycling of the bullet through the gun. What does that mean? Does that prove that he is the guy who is bridge guy and it was his gun, it was his bullet that was in between the 2 girls? So I'm going to go through these 3 things. And then I also want to talk about at the end whether I think the evidence so far is benefiting the prosecution or the defense. Okay, so let's go to the first part. There was I'm going to look at the little article here from Fox, fox59.com, and there was a volunteer who was going back through the files and came across a file with his name on it. And it says here, on September 21st, 2022, she came across the folder. Let me see if I have her name because she just, oh, here is. I want to give her credit. The first witness here at the trial was Kathy Shank, a retired DCS worker who volunteered to help with administrative duties like organizing files and tips into a database. She estimated she handled about 14,000 tips related to the Delphi murders. Now, let me point out, I want to stop here because 14,000 tips. I can tell you right now that about 13,990 of those tips were garbage, because there's how many people could know what happened at that location at that time, or could actually know who did it. And this is what the police have to deal with. One of the biggest problems with tips, and I had a problem with Doug Carter on this because he said he's kind of like, I wasn't happy with his press conferences because he was kind of a blowhard and just said a whole bunch of stuff that was nonsense. What he needed to do, which I've been promoting for a long time, is to give a very solid profile of the crime. What I mean by that is, this is when it happened. This is what we're looking for. And then give as much information as you can as to what you're looking for, so that the population in the vicinity can say, that sounds like this person I know, or I know so-and-so was in the park that day. Give something so solid that you don't get a whole bunch of crap tips like, how many of them? 14,000 of them. I don't know how many of those are psychic tips. Like, I'm a psychic and I know I know who killed the girls. There was a guy with a name that started with R. I always like R. Oh, maybe it was Ron Logan. This kind of nonsense. The police, when this garbage comes in, it wastes a tremendous amount of police time. And it really frustrates me because I always think if they gave a more solid, very basic profile with absolute, this is the time, this is where it happened, we're looking for a psychopathic murderer. What is a psychopath? He is a manipulative, lying piece of crap. He had a gun with him. He clearly killed the girls with a bladed weapon. So there's a gun and a knife involved. Put that out there. Because if somebody knows something, they have to have it match the stuff. Not so vague that everybody comes up with a suspect. But they had 14,000 tips. Ugh. And of course, one of the problems these days is it goes across the entire United States. So everybody and their brother from the other 49 states, oh my God, I think it was this guy. I think he committed a crime that was similar in Oklahoma. Okay, go away. But the police have to deal with this. So they had a ton of stuff coming in. So this wonderful woman named Kathy Shank, she went through the files. And then on September 21st, 2022, she came across a file folder that was not with the others she was managing. Inside was a report with the name Richard Allen Whiteman. The report indicated that Allen was on the Monon High Bridge on the day of the murders. If I had a stick here with a red flag on it, I would be waving it right about now. She immediately, because she seems like a smart woman, she immediately notified Tony Liggett, the lead investigator on the case, and the current Carroll County Sheriff. Shank noted that the tip sheet said, "This is where I get incensed. Cleared." And wasn't sure why Allen's name was entered incorrectly as Richard Allen Whiteman. Yes, that is a problem. If you are completing a form, you're doing an interview and completing a form, how the heck do you come up with not even the correct name on the form? Shank told the report caught her attention because she recalled 3 girls reporting seeing a man on the bridge and thought there was a possible correlation. During cross-examination from the defense attorney Andrew Baldwin, Shank said she never saw any other tips regarding Richard Allen or Richard Allen Whiteman. She simply thought the report was something to look into. Well, she should have thought that, and she did think that. And why the hell didn't anybody else on that police force think that? So apparently, they next called at the court Captain Dan Doolin with the Indiana Department of Natural Resources. Sorry, sometimes when you read stuff, you go, what? Who was tasked with helping investigators track down leads in the Delphi murders case. He was with the Department of Natural Resources. Shouldn't he have actually been a detective with the actual police agency? I'm a little confused here. Because if you're going to send somebody out to actually investigate something, to actually do an interview, you want proper detectives doing it. He met with Allen on February 18th, 2017, just a few days after the murders. This is extraordinarily important. He was a lieutenant at the time. I guess with the Department of Natural Resources. I'm confused. Allen had contacted investigators to self-report that he had been on the Monon High Bridge on the day the girls disappeared. Where's my red flag? I swear to God, I want to wave it here. Doolin initially wanted to meet at Allen's house, but Allen didn't want to meet there. Doolin then suggested the police station. Again, Allen preferred a different location. He suggested they meet in a parking lot of a Save-A-Lot store. Doolin agreed. All right, red flag again. Dude won't even let you come to his home, won't go to the police station, wants to meet you in a parking lot. Isn't that where you sell things that fall off the back of a truck? I mean, who wants to meet in a parking lot? Anyway, so he agreed to do that. He confirmed Allen's name. Well, not very well because the wrong name was on the report, and noted he lived on Whiteman Drive, so somehow those two got conflated, and he turned into Richard Allen Whiteman, which is part of the address. Oh, my God. Allen told Doolin he was in the area of Monon High Bridge between 1 and 3 p.m. on the day the girls disappeared. Over the course of the conversation, he changed the timeline to 1:30 to 3:30 p.m. If you're a real investigator, you would stop and say, why have you changed that? Now, sometimes it's because you really freaking can't remember. I mean, if I've gone for a walk on a path, I will confess that I probably have no idea when I started or stopped. So it may not be meaningful, but as an investigator, at least you should ask. He told Doolin he saw 3 young girls when he was walking. By Allen's account, he wasn't paying much attention to his surroundings as he walked, and he checked a stock ticker on his phone. He said he went to Freedom Bridge and then to Monon High Bridge. Okay, so he's in the area at the time. Doolin was confident Allen had parked at the old DCS building. Why would Doolin be confident of that? I have no idea. Doolin told the court the conversation lasted 10 minutes because, you got a guy who says he's on the trail. He was at the time the 2 girls were abducted. He was at the bridge where the 2 girls were abducted from, and you got 10 minutes. I feel pain right now. And he typed up the notes on Microsoft Word. Well, good for him. And the information was then followed into the system. He told the court he didn't think much of the interview. Why the hell not? The dude was at the bridge where the girls were killed at the time the girls were killed. What part didn't she get? That this might be really important. And so he didn't think much of it until investigators contacted him in 2022 after Shank found the 2017 report. Oh my God. He was asked to be spoken to Allen, and he searched his computer and found a document, the document he had typed in that 10 minutes, and turned it over. Doolin went into the DNR files in 2022 to see if there was any additional information about Allen. He discovered Allen had applied for a new fishing license on April 1st, 2017, and he reported a new height and weight, changing his height from 5'4" to 5'6". He also listed a different weight. Okay, I've done that. I'm going to take 20 pounds off. Height usually doesn't change. Why would he change from 5'4" to 5'6" on a fishing license? That's really odd. It would make more sense if he was involved in the Delphi crimes, and he want to lower his height so that he looked like he couldn't be the guy that was bridge guy. It's rather bizarre. When defense attorney Bradley Rossi cross-examined Doolin, he asked if anything about Allen struck him as unusual. No, Doolin answered, because, when you're with the guy for 10 minutes in a parking lot, I guess nothing stands out to you, especially if you're not really a freaking investigator. Okay. 5 weeks after Shank discovered the misfiled report, he was arrested in connection with the murders. All right. Big number one. Oh my God. Are you kidding me? Delphi, Indiana, not the biggest place in the world. There is a very small population. There are only so many people who could have been in that park that day, and only so many people who could have been near the bridge. And this guy, obviously because somebody saw him, self-reported, because if he didn't, he would look like he was hiding. So he self-reported because he was seen. If there was a number one suspect in this case, within 3 days of the murders of these young girls, it was this guy. It wasn't anybody else. There are other good suspects in the future, which for 5 years became very popular. But within 3 days, this guy who was on the trail at the bridge. Oh, and what was he doing? He was on the bridge looking at fishies. Now, I've seen that bridge. First of all, it's scary as crap, but it's really high. I'm going to say, unless that guy was looking at, if you could see the fish from the height of that bridge, I wouldn't be wasting my time up on the bridge. I'd be fishing for those suckers, because those fish would be able to feed me, my family, for the next month. The claim he was even looking at fish from that bridge is, I almost said that RETARDED word, ridiculous. Okay. And if that, in 10 minutes, if that guy who did that really thorough interview in a parking lot didn't catch on that this guy was somebody the police should be looking at, I don't understand it. Then he was cleared. How the hell did he get cleared? He was on the path at the time the girls were there and were abducted and murdered. How do you clear a guy? Now, I have seen this happen more in my investigative criminal profiling career than I want to see. Here is my rule on clearing people. You can clear a person when they're not in the country. In other words, you have proof they got on a plane and were over in Germany at the time the girls were killed. That's pretty substantial. 2, this particular person was a pastor, and at the time the girls were killed, he was in the pulpit of his church giving a sermon, and there were videos of it. I would say you can clear that guy. The guy is in the ICU. He's hooked up to machines, and he can't get out of bed during the time the girls were killed. You can clear that guy. he was seen on videos someplace very far away. It absolutely was him going to a bank or whatever. You could prove that it was him. You can clear him. Except for those things, you cannot clear the person. He was on the trail about the time the girls were killed. There's no way to clear him. I was home with my wife. I was with my girlfriend. I was with my mommy. Those are not, you can't clear somebody because your family will lie for you. Not my family, because I have a good family, but many families will lie for their loved ones because a loved one will say something like, I'm going to be in big trouble. I didn't do it, but I was in the area. So please tell them I was home because, and people go, oh my God, yeah, we better say that he was home. I mean, we don't want to get him in trouble when he didn't do anything, but he happened to be around the area. You can't clear a person for that. You only clear the person on things I just said. Otherwise, that person should remain on the suspect list because you can't clear them. How the hell he was cleared is beyond me. First of all, he was there right at the time the girls were there. He admitted it. He's the best witness in this case. Secondly, they sent out a guy who does not know what he's doing to do a ridiculous interview, which was pitiful. And that shows police incompetence. Thirdly, they cleared him or cleared somewhere on his file. And that is also police incompetence. The defense can have a field day with this because when they present police incompetence to a jury, then the jury says, if they do this stupidly and so badly, what else have they screwed up? This is a problem. The only good thing that comes out of this for the prosecution is the fact that he actually was there. He admitted to being there. And thank God the woman found that because it took 5 years. I remember this. People just going crazy with the video of bridge guy. Well, who killed these girls? Who killed these girls? Who killed these girls? And going on down every rabbit hole possible. And then suddenly this dude pops up. Well, he didn't pop up just because he happened to be, I don't know, a guy who worked in town and they decided to pick on him. No, there were better people to pick on him. They found him because when they look back, they say, oh my God, 3 days after the crime, the guy said he was on the bridge. What the hell? He was there and he admitted it 3 days later. One of the most interesting things about serial killers is oftentimes when they go back and look at the police investigation, they will find the serial killer who eventually is actually convicted was actually in the original interviews. They were right there and they interviewed him and they just wrote his name down and he walked out. But oftentimes he is right there. Why? Because there's usually a very small area where the people might have been that committed the crime. And so oftentimes that serial killer is among those people that were in that area. If only they paid attention to whom they actually interviewed. All right, that's number one. Next thing, they went to his home, and I found this fascinating. A whole bunch of bad stuff and a whole bunch of good stuff. Well, one good stuff. All right. Oh, hold on a second. Fine. Okay. So now they go to his home. What did they find in his home? Well, I found this. Oh, this is, sorry, it's not the right one. Maybe it's this one. I have so much open. Okay, here we go. Testimony reveals some of what was found in Richard Allen's Delphi home. So now we've moved ahead in time after they go, oh, how do we ignore this guy? Maybe he didn't have an alibi. Maybe he shouldn't have been cleared. All right. The trial of Richard Allen continued on October 24th. All right. So anyway, this is what they said. All right. So 2 Indiana State Police investigators assisted in October 2022 a search of Richard Allen's home in Delphi. Prosecutors flipped through over a dozen photographs taken during the search of Allen's home, showing jurors photos of his house. Who cares? His 2016 Ford Focus and multiple knives. In one image, Detective David Vito, who sits in the search, showed a photo of Allen's kitchen with a basket carrying, quote, everyday belongings such as keys. However, Vito stated that inside the basket or next to it was a box cutter. Imagine that. A box cutter. All right, let me stop right here. It is possible the girls' throats were cut with a box cutter. If a box cutter was found in his home, first of all, they don't know that a box cutter was used to cut their throats. It could have been a serrated knife. It could have been this. It could have been that. It's pretty pitiful. So in his house, he has a thing called knives, in the kitchen. Oh my God. Regular knife, serrated knife, and over in a basket, a box cutter. If none of those items had blood from the two girls on them, it's crap. It's absolute crap. Because if you come to my home today, you open my drawers, you're going to find really fancy Japanese knives, really shabby, useful serrated knives. I use that to cut boxes and crap. Oh, and a box cutter. You know why I have a box cutter? Because we're supposed to, when we put the boxes out in the trash, we're supposed to cut the boxes down and not put them out as boxes. I still don't understand that. So some of it's very hard. They're very hard to rip apart. I take the freaking box cutter and slash the crap up. I am British guy. This stuff he had in his home is meaningless. The knives, the box cutter, none of it matters because there's no evidence that it's linked to the girls' murders outside of the fact it could have been the weapons that he used to commit the crime if he were a British guy. But other than that, useless. So the prosecution brings this up. It's kind of like, and what's your point? We all have that in our house too. So why don't you arrest all of us? All right, it goes on. Alan's attorneys, Jennifer Auger and Audrey Baldwin, during cross-examination, countered that Alan had a fishing license and implied that fishermen often use knives to cut their lines. Wow. Yeah. Amazing. Auger also states that many families in Tippecanoe and Carroll County traverse the trails. Okay, these are just silly things that is absolutely, well, yeah, everybody does. So it's not a big deal. None of this matters. It was also during the search that the police found the Sig Sauer Model P226 40 caliber handgun they say is tied to an unspent round found at the crime scene. This is the most important thing they found at the house. The rest of this stuff seems like crap to me. However, there was an unspent round from a 40 caliber. They go to this guy's house who says he was on the trail at the time the girls were killed, and lo and behold, he has a gun that matches what could be used, the unspent round could have gone through. That is important. If we went to the house and all he found was a 38, then it wouldn't have been the gun that could have been the gun. If they went and found anything else, it wouldn't have been the gun that could have been the gun. But they found the gun that could have been the gun. This is actually useful information and as a check mark for the prosecution. All right. However, I want to point out this one more thing that he said. When they came to his house and found all this stuff, he said, and I'm trying to find, okay, wait a minute, let me check. I know I clicked a picture of this because I thought this was important for the prosecution, because I believe this is the one statement he made that was his first kind of confession. And he said this. After they looked at all his house, he said this. Alan replied, when they said they found certain things, Alan replied, "It doesn't matter. It's over." That, to me, as a profiler, is interesting. If you're an innocent person, somebody comes to your house to look for crap, and you're like, I have nothing to do with any of this stuff, I would say, hey, I don't know what you're looking for, but it wasn't me. But he said, it doesn't matter. It's over. He believed they had found evidence enough because he knew he was on the trail that day. He admitted he was on that trail that day at the location the girls were killed. A bullet was found between the girls that matched his gun. When you're guilty of something, you know way more than the police know. So you have all the images of what happened in your head. And when the police are now in your house looking at your stuff and finding that gun, you say, it doesn't matter. It's over. He has given up because he believes the police have him. That was a huge win for the prosecution if the jury understood this. That's his first admission was he was on the trail. That's not a confession. His first admission, he was on the trail that put him at the place of the crime. But his first confession was that it doesn't matter, it's over. Win for the prosecution. All right. Number 3. Now we go to the issue of that bullet. Okay. Well, now, here's the headline. Number 3 for me. Delphi murders. Jurors get a crash course on guns and bullets. If there wasn't ever an argument that I have not made yet for why we shouldn't have civilian juries, this is it. They're given a crash course on guns and bullets. Do you honestly think that people who do not understand guns and bullets can get a crash course in understanding them? Let's say, for example, all right, I don't play golf. I always found that an annoying game. I wasn't that bad at, hitting the ball with the stupid club, but God, I thought it was a boring game. I hit the ball, and then I had to go find the damn ball, and then I had to walk and walk, and then I had to hit it again. I'd rather play miniature golf, tell you the truth, because at least the course was short. Okay, I wasn't a golf fan. However, my sons are big into golf. And so I have watched a lot of golf on television, and I enjoy watching these professional golfers and the amazing talent that they have. And I can actually sit there and watch golf. Oddly enough, I can watch it. I just don't want to play the damn game. But if you give me a crash course during a couple hours of whether, if you look at all the participants, the players on the golf course, they were on, I don't know, they were at number 9. They teed off, and then they went on. I don't know golf, so I'm going to look like a moron here. Okay, so now they've teed off, they've hit their shot, and now the ball is dropped, and now they're going to get an iron, I guess, because no longer wood or whatever. See how bad I am? But I want to be bad on purpose, because this is what the jury look is like. So now I think they have an iron, and now I'm going to get a short course on how they should hit the ball, what their arm should be like, and what stance they should take, and what follow through they should have, and whether the ball is going to slice or whatever the hell else it can do, because I freaking don't know. And I'm going to get a short course on how to hit a golf ball. And then I'm going to determine, above all the experts, which one of the players hit the golf ball the best. It's ludicrous. It's nonsense, absolute nonsense. So we have this title, Delphi Murder Trial, Jurors Get a Crash Course on Guns and Bullets, so that they can, above all the experts, actually know whether the experts are telling the truth, because they got a crash course. Okay. So the jury heard from Melissa Olberg, a gun expert for the Indiana State Police, who talked about the bullet found near the bodies. She was talking about the markings on the bullet. So this is tool markings. Now, just so you understand how this works. Now, I've worked on cases which were gunshot cases. And this is one of my favorite books, Practical Shooting Scene Investigation. This goes on about how the actual shot was made, what the trajectory was, and so on and so forth. Tool markings were not a part of this, because as a profile, I'm looking at how it was done, not necessarily what bullet committed the crime. This is what I would read. Okay, now we got another one. Gunshot wounds. All right. Practical aspects of firearms, ballistics. Ballistics is the part of this tool mark stuff, and forensic techniques. All right. Just so you can see how this works, because it's just unbelievable. Okay, so I'm in chapter 2. Oops, sorry. The forensic aspects of ballistics. Just so you can understand how easy this is for 12 people off a bus stop, which is what I always call civilian jurors. God bless them all. But hey, they don't know shit about any of this. Rifles and handguns have rifle barrels, and that is spiral grooves that have been cut to the length of the interior or bore of the barrel. Rifling consists of these grooves and the metal left between the grooves, the lands. The purpose of rifling is to impart a rotational spin to the bullet along its longitudinal axis. This gyroscopic effect stabilizes the bullet's flight through the air, preventing it from tumbling end over end. This spin does not, however, stabilize the bullet after it enters the body due to the greater density of tissue compared to air. The term twist, as it pertains to rifling, refers to the number of inches or centimeters of bore required for one complete rifling spiral. All modern weapons have a twist which is constant for the entire length of the barrel. Some weapons manufactured in the beginning of the 20th century had a gain twist. In this type of rifling, the rate of twist increases from breech to muzzle. Are you one of those 12 people off a bus stop on a jury? Did you understand what the hell I'm even talking about? No, you don't. All right, so then we go on. We got pictures of different bullets fired from weapons. We have rifling characteristics of this many types of weapons. Let's see. Now we have a class and individual characteristics of bullets. So even though this bullet was only cycled through the gun and wasn't shot through the gun, the expert shot bullets through the gun so she could see more clearly the different markings on the gun, on the bullet, that would match the gun. So even though they were limited with the cycling, because it didn't really get shot through the gun, she could still use the bullets that she shot through the gun to then look at the characteristics and see whether the cycled bullet that they found at the crime scene matched what was shot to the gun, whether it had similar characteristics. She is looking at the number of lands and grooves, the diameter of lands and grooves, the widths of lands and grooves, the depths of grooves, the direction of rifling, twist, and the degree of twist. A comparison of bullets. When a gun is discharged, the bullet is forced down the barrel by the gases of combustion. Both class and individual characteristics are imparted to the bullet. Whether it is lead or jacketed, because lead is softer, one might postulate that bullet markings on the lead bullets are more distinctive than those found on jacketed bullets. But in actual practice, markings on the jacketed bullets are usually superior because a jacket of the hardened metal is less likely to have the rifling markings wiped off by the target. I won't even keep going. Do you get the point? They got a crash course. They're like, they haven't got a clue. And they have no reason to have a clue. They don't know what the expert is really explaining things properly and is proving that his gun was the gun that bullet cycled through or not. And then the defense will roll through and say, it's crap science. Tool mark evidence is garbage. There's no way a cycle bullet has anything to do with one that's been shot through a gun because blah, 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 and they'll find an expert. And their jury will be going, because they haven't got a freaking clue. Why should they? Why should they? Unless you are absolutely involved in ballistics. It's such a complicated field. There's no way the jury is going to have an idea. Now, as a profiler, I don't have an idea either. I can't lie. I mean, I'm sure profilers out there will lie their little butts off going, oh, I understand ballistics entirely. No, I don't. I have to ask a ballistics guy, what do you think? I do. I have studied gunshot trajectory. I'm better at that. If I have a case, unlike the jury who's not allowed to do their own research, look at anything. When I have a case, I can go back to any of these books and I can study the living crap out of it. And I can call up ballistics people and discuss it with them. The jury doesn't get to do that. They're supposed to they're just going to listen to the expert and they're going to decide which one is telling the truth. They have no freaking idea. And it is appalling. Which is why I'm against the civilian jury system, not because the civilian jurors are lousy people. They're good people. They just can't possibly know. So it astounds me that we continue. So they had a crash course. and ballistics. No, they didn't. Anyway, so that's number 3. All right. So let's go back over everything. 1, he self-reported within 3 days. He was ignored and cleared. This is horrific police work. If I were the defense, I'd be all over this crap. If they did such a bad job, even paying attention to what should be the number 1 suspect in this case, and spent 5 years looking about everybody else, well, then hell, they don't know what they're doing, and they probably ignored all the other good possibilities. That's what the defense will come up with. The jury will go, well, Jesus, it was crappy police work. How could they not even do the basic stuff? They didn't even do their own work. That's some guy from where, I don't even know where he's from, do a 10-minute interview in a parking lot. Can we trust this police force? Now, again, I will point out over and over, as I often do, this is not corruption. This is not a conspiracy. It's incompetence. I didn't like what I saw going on very early in this case, not because I thought it was corrupt, because I thought, oh my God, you guys are idiots. Sorry, guys. I mean, this is some of the worst police work I've ever seen. Now, mind you, it's a small area. And sometimes you only get what you get to do the work. And it's an overwhelming case that you didn't see coming. And sometimes it just doesn't go that well. So I don't hate the detectives on the case. Doug Carter, okay, I think you should have kept your mouth shut. But okay, I'm not hating you either. I'm just saying, I think you were in over your head. I think a lot of you were. However, that doesn't mean that there isn't evidence, and it doesn't mean that there's not a good suspect to take that you should prosecute. Just because some of it was incompetent doesn't mean that there isn't information and evidence that is useful. And I think people, because they expect perfection, throw out the baby with the bathwater. Okay, so number 1, he did admit he was on the path. He was his best witness. He was on the path at the location. The girls were killed at approximately the time. That's concerning. So I think the prosecution has the advantage in that he was there, but I think their incompetence in handling the whole case and having him being cleared is a great advantage to the defense. So I'm going to go 50-50 on that one. Number 2. All right. Number 2 was what they found in his house. The whole garbage about the box cutter and knives is all silly stuff. And half the jury is probably going, well, maybe the entire jury is going, well, I have that in my house too, which completely makes the prosecution look moronic. The only thing they had going for them was the actual gun that matched the ammo that matched the bullet they found at the crime scene. That's their number 1. I'm going to go 50-50 on it again. They had that advantage because of the gun, but because of all the other nonsensical crap they said and nothing else that they found in the house gives the defense something to say, hey, they're just talking crap. Okay, let's go to 3. The tool markings on the bullet. The jury has no clue what the hell is being said. And although the prosecution does seem to indicate with the expert that the tool markings would match the gun as it fired a similar bullets, I don't know that would be understood by the jury. So 50-50 again. So I really think the whole week came out 50-50, which is a problem for the prosecution. The prosecution can't afford 50-50. 50-50 means the defense is winning because all you need is reasonable doubt. And if you have reasonable doubt that he really was the guy, you have reasonable doubt that, let's say that nothing in the house really it was important, or maybe the gun, but anybody could have a gun like that. And the ballistics, I don't really understand them. That's reasonable doubt for the defense, for the jury. So, as I have said previously, I think there's only 2 things that will really, truly get the jury to convict him. 1 is that he said he was at the location that the crime went down. 2, that he confessed 60 times. I don't know what the other 59 are, but I'm going to say the first one that I thought was important was that he said it's over. That to me is a confession. Whether the jury sees it that way, I don't know. But I think this entire case is going to come down to his confessions because Although as a criminal profiler, I can put together circumstantial evidence and build it up to a totality where I go, it's unlikely to be anybody but him. The jury is not going to see it that way. They're going to come down to, can you prove he was a bridge guy? And the answer to this at this point is no, you cannot. Although he says he was there could be another guy that is similar to him enough, maybe even taller than him, who could be bridge guy. And that this poor schmuck was just in the area looking at those damn fish, was willing to go to the police and let them know. And now he's being accused of being bridge guy when there's actually nothing that links him to bridge guy, which is true. The only thing is that he was in the area and there's a bullet that could have come from his gun, but will the jury believe it came from his gun? There you go. That's it. Unless the confessions do him in. So let's see what's going to happen next week. Will the confessions get the jury to believe that this is the guy who did it? Or will they have questions over those confessions? Are they false confessions? Are they confessions under duress? Was he losing his damn mind? Was he suicidal and just said, hell with it? I'm going to confess to this crime I didn't commit. And I don't know. I don't know what all the confessions are. I haven't heard any of them. So I'm looking forward to hearing that to see whether they're going to be convincing that he actually knew things that only the killer would know, and that he had no reason to give those confessions except that, well, if he killed these girls, he's a psychopath. So the only reason he would do those confessions is to get something in return. It might be the support of his wife. It might be, I didn't mean to do it, I'm crazy. I don't know what the reason would be, but no psychopath gives up information unless he thinks it's going to benefit him. And so some serial killers, and if he killed these girls, he would be in that group. And I do hope they're looking for every crime he could have possibly committed outside of this. He's not going to confess because he feels guilty, because psychopaths don't feel guilty. So he would be confessing only because it benefited him in some way, shape, or form. And you'd be surprised if they think they're caught and cornered. They might think, if I confess to my wife, like I had some weird issue, and she'll stand by me and send me, she'll still come to prison, to the prison. I'll still get like extra money and, stuff for so I can buy extra, treats and cigarettes or whatever the hell I want. Or people may feel sorry for me. There's a million reasons why an actual guilty person will confess, but it never has anything to do with guilt. In a case like a horrific homicide like this, because that psychopath doesn't feel guilt. So he's going to do it to manipulate. I'm looking forward to seeing what his confessions are, but I think it's going to depend on that, as far as whether the jury will convict or not convict, whether they'll find him guilty or not guilty. All you need is 1 out of 12 to have reasonable doubt. And this case is, as I pointed out in the very first video, I basically said this case is, why did I say that? Because it's so circumstantial, and the circumstantial evidence is very, very, it's there, but it's kind of limited. And because of the police incompetence and all of that, I think if they find him guilty, it will still go to appeal. And if the appeal fails, it'll still go to the new fanciful conviction. What's called the, I always get this wrong. Oh man, why do I have trouble with this? I swear to God, I can never actually get the name of this thing straight. I'm working on it. They're called CIUs. They're called Conviction Integrity Units. Sorry, I don't know why. I hate them. So I think it's just, I have my blocked out of my head. If it doesn't go to appeal, it'll go to conviction and integrity unit, where some new DA down the line will say, hey, this was a crap case. The police were incompetent. The whole thing was nonsense. And there were so many issues with this case. I think we should just let this guy walk. I would be surprised. So my belief is that the chances of Richard Allen getting convicted and staying in prison for a long time, I don't like to bet on things, but I would lean that direction, saying I think that this case has troubles. If you look over to Idaho, on the other hand, the Idaho murders, the quadruple homicide over there. I think that case is going to go down. He's going to get convicted. Why? Because his DNA was at the scene. Because he's a weirdo incel driving around in the night. I'm going to say he's going to go down. Real different case than this case. So here we have a guy who's lived in town for so many years. His daughter was raised here. He worked in town. And people, I want to point this out. People say, well, if it were really him, he would have left town. He would have run away. No, this is not what you do. When you commit a crime like this, you don't run away because it makes you look guilty. So you stay around and you pretend you didn't do it. So all these people that say he would have run away is nonsense. He has a long-term history of being in this town as a reasonably decent citizen, which is to his advantage, because you look at him and go, did he, how would in the middle of midlife would he suddenly kill two young girls? Why would he do this? He's never committed any crimes before that we know of. Now, he may have committed them, but we just may not know it. I hope the police, and I assume they are going back and looking at every rape and homicide that could be the kind of thing he would commit within the area, or if he traveled out of the area. That would mean that he did some kind of crimes prior to this one. But then again, we can't say that person midlife cannot have a fantasy that they've has festered for years, and they finally decided, eureka, I got my chance. Nothing is as easy as people think it is. This is, when you're a criminal profile, you must look at all the statistics, and surely it all goes this way. No, it doesn't. You have the anomalies, and then they screw you up. So maybe he's an anomaly. I don't know. But he is a more unique suspect, a more unlikely suspect than when we go over to Idaho. And you say, that guy looks guilty as hell. And his DNA was at the scene. So I think that case has got a really good chance of he's going to be convicted. This case, really questionable. So those are my thoughts on this. I will be back next week, probably. I don't know what else they have. I guess it's the confessions. I'm looking forward to the confessions, because I think other than that, they really haven't got much else to work with. So, and the judge, I think, has now allowed the oddness theory back in. I don't know if that's going to do the defense good or bad. I'm not really sure, because it's so ridiculous. But I have so many comments on my videos how oddness obviously are involved. He's obviously innocent, blah, blah, blah. And if that many people put comments about the oddness theory being real, you can bet that maybe 1 out of those 12 jurors will think so too. So maybe the defense will have a field day with it. I don't know. Maybe it'll really work for them. So anyway, that is now allowed in. So let's see what happens next week. Again, if you're new to the channel, please do like and subscribe. This is an educational channel, which means I don't do just gossip and a whole bunch of stuff that gets me clicks. So please do support the channel. Keeps me going. And click the bell just so you do get the notifications of what I do in the future. And if you're interested in anything besides this case, which would be nice, because my whole point of the channel is to teach people how to understand evidence, how profiling works, how crime analysis works, and how it works in your own life. And so I do tons of different cases, because one case it's not about one case. It's about how to think logically, and how important that is in the courts and just in your own life. Because, if you're talking about the most important person in the world is probably you, you really want to know if you can understand the people around you and what they're doing, and not get caught up in a whole bunch of nonsense, not get to be taken advantage of, not to get into relationships you shouldn't have gotten into. So if you can do your own profiling, that's what I'm aiming for. I want detectives to learn from this channel, but I want regular people to also get some knowledge out of it as well. Okay, that's it for now. I will see you probably next week. Bye.